Let me tell you something that just broke. Conversations within the Steelers are heating up, and you're only hearing it this raw, straight from the Steel Nation bleachers. There's a veteran feud brewing, trade rumors swirling, and even a surprise on offense. Now, can the atmosphere hold up until the season opener? But before we dive into all these bombshells, let me give you the real talk. More than 90% of the people who come through here haven't hit the subscribe button yet. Can you believe that? You're missing out on the real no-nonsense analysis from Steel Nation Central, man. So get on it, click that button right now, because this is where black and gold lives. I'm going to start by talking about a guy who needs no introduction, Cam Hayward. 15 years with the Steelers, captain, all-pro, the heart of the team. But my friend, things are getting sour. The man is butting heads with the front office over his contract. It sounds like a joke, but the guy who represents so much is getting paid a salary that doesn't even come close to the top of his position. He's tied for 22nd among elite linemen, 22nd for a monster who single-handedly held down an entire defense. That sounds like pure disrespect. And you know what kills me? It's seeing him tell reporters he can't even guarantee he'll play in the opener. He said it himself. I wish I had a straight answer for you guys, but I'm having some really tough conversations with my family. That right there shows you the weight of this thing. It's not just money, it's dignity, it's recognition. Now, there was even an idea to solve it with performance bonuses, like an incentive-based deal. The San Francisco 49ers did something similar with wide receiver Jawan Jennings, putting an extra $3 million in possible bonuses on the table. That would be an honest way out for Cam. After all, he's never shied away from a fight. He's always proven himself on the field. If it were based on incentives, he'd be all in. But, and here comes the but that makes me so mad. They asked if the Steelers have opened that door, and the answer was a dry no. And I'm telling you, buddy, what a stubborn mindset. He even commented, almost no one gets incentives here, only the quarterback. What kind of rigid policy is that? It's like they've forgotten the essence of the game. Hayward isn't just another guy. He's the soul of that defense. And the man even said, I'm always willing to prove it. My career is all about that. If that was the way to go, I'd face it head on. In other words, he's not being difficult. He's ready. The team just needs to want it. To be honest with you, this reminds me of those ugly player front office feuds from way back when it seemed like they forgot how the nation feels. It's like they've erased the memories of a guy like Polamalu who always left it all on the field and still had a cold exit. I've seen this movie before and I don't want to repeat. And look, time is running out. The season is right around the corner and it doesn't look like a deal is going to happen. The fans are starting to grumble. The online groups are on fire. Some are saying he deserves every penny, while others are tougher. Team comes first. I get both sides, but deep down, it hurts me to imagine the number 97 missing on the opening kickoff. You're only hearing this unfiltered analysis here. If the front office doesn't get its act together, we could head into week 1 without our defensive captain. And seriously, who can handle seeing that kind of hole right off the bat? Comment below what you do in the front office's shoes. Would you pay the man or let things go sour? Because hold on, the next piece of news might shake things up even more on offense. All right, so if the defense's problem is Hayward's contract, on offense, the talk is different. Wide receiver, and it's not new for us to say this position group looks like a soap opera. We always seem to be missing that reliable second guy, the one who makes a difference when the game is on the line. Well, the name that's back in circulation is Jacoby Myers from the Raiders. Look at this saga. The guy requested a trade back in the offseason. Steelers fans were hopeful, as always, because let's be real, every unhappy wide receiver on another team seems to have a headed to Pittsburgh stamp on them. But then came the cold shower. The Raiders GM, John Spytek, said there would be no negotiations. The fan base here collapsed. It seemed like the door had been slammed shut for good. But hold on to this. Myers himself decided to speak up. And my friend, his tone was that of someone who didn't buy the decision. He said, I asked. They said no. But for me, it's not over. I'm still fighting every day to take care of my family. If they're done, I'm not. I'm going to have to bring the subject up again. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to leave if they want me to. But it's not over. Man, when I read that, I immediately thought that flame is still burning. The Steelers might not have made a move right now, but the door isn't locked. Myers is willing. He wants out. and we know the front office isn't afraid to look for reinforcements in the middle of the season. Remember Mike Williams last year? It was at the deadline in desperation after the receivers had a horrible start. Williams didn't deliver everything we expected, but he came up with some important catches and helped in the final stretch. So think with me, if the Raiders decide to give in, if their patience with Myers runs out, who's going to be watching? That's right, us. And this isn't just wishful thinking either. It's reality, because the team needs that fit. DK Metcalf is a beast, that's great, but we need someone consistent on the other side. Now, to be honest with you, this drama reminds me of back when we were always waiting for one more target for Big Ben. It was never simple. There was always a soap opera, always a debate about whether it was worth paying a high price or not. And the fans, as always, were divided. Today, in the groups, I've already seen people saying Myers is the right name, he'll fit right in. Others are complaining, we don't need another problem, we have to trust what we already have. It's always like this. Steel Nation is huge, and every corner has an opinion. But I'm telling you, you can't rule this out. Myers is restless. He's sending a message between the lines. And if not now, that flame could be reignited at the deadline. Just imagine Rodgers throwing to Metcalf on one side and Myers on the other. Huh? Isn't that something to get chills just thinking about? So comment below, would you bring in Myers or save the money for another position? And don't tune out, because the next piece of news might change the face of the receiving core even more. Now, let me tell you about something that seems small but could become huge. The Steelers hosted a visit from Raheem Jarrett, the former wide receiver for the Buccaneers. Yeah, it might sound like a behind-the-scenes detail, but look, we know these moves hide a lot more. The guy is only 24 years old, young, with a lot of energy to show, and even so, he's already been through some ups and downs. Just to set the scene, Jarrett entered the league in 2023, undrafted. That says a lot, doesn't it? You know, he was underestimated from the start and had to work extra hard to earn a spot. And he did. He made the Tampa Bay roster as a rookie, playing in 20 games over 2 seasons. In other words, the kid has experience. He's not a complete unknown in the locker room. But then came the famous roster cuts in August, and the Buccaneers decided to release him. This is where Pittsburgh comes in. With the departure of veteran Robert Woods, who was cut, the depth of the receiving group got even tighter. And, you know, right, it's a long season, an injury here, a suspension there, a fragile group can cost you games. That's why bringing someone like Jarrett in isn't just about filling a hole, it's about thinking ahead. I know a lot of people will say, oh, but who is Raheem Jarrett compared to the big names? And I agree, you can't expect a superstar. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes the surprise comes from guys like this. Who remembers Willie Parker? No one gave him a chance, also undrafted, and he became a legend in Super Bowl XL. I'm not saying Jarrett is going to repeat that, but there is a precedent. And what about his style? The kid is fast, agile. He has that instinct to find space in the middle of the field. He's not the size of monsters like Metcalf, but he makes up for it with his route running and willingness to compete. For an offense that needs to vary its options, he could be extremely useful. And here's a detail. If he goes to the practice squad, you can mold him without pressure. You can hone his talent. In the fan groups, I've already seen both sides pop up again. Some are excited, saying it's worth giving the young guy a chance and seeing what happens. Others are tired of bets and are asking for an immediate big name signing. But I like this balance. Have a star at the top and hungry kids in the back. That's what keeps the flame of the franchise burning. Only here you get this unfiltered perspective. It's not just about having stars, it's about creating the next one. And Pittsburgh has always had that DNA of finding value where no one else sees it. Jarrett might just be another name now, but what if he gets some chemistry with Rodgers in a practice and becomes a real piece? And so I ask you, would you give him a shot or let the boat sail without him? Because the next topic, the next one is heavy. It's a big deal, with Rodgers even giving a compliment that no one expected. Now, hold on tight, because this one is the kind that makes you proud just to hear. Aaron Rodgers, our new quarterback, was asked who was catching his eye the most in practice. Do you think he was going to talk about DK Metcalf, the newly arrived star, or maybe Freiermuth, who's already established? Nothing like that. The man went and dropped the name Darnell Washington. That's right, the giant at the tight end position. Man, just hearing that made me smile. Rodgers doesn't just hand out compliments for nothing. And he went even further. He said that in practice, the week before the 4-day break, he threw several balls in the red zone to Washington, and he thought to himself, and this guy is in the right place. And for those of us used to hearing criticism, that is music to our ears, and it's not an exaggeration. Washington is one of the biggest skill players in the league, almost the size of an offensive lineman, but with the ability to catch a pass. It's like something from a video game. A lot of people have questioned whether he should be moved to the offensive line, but Rodgers made it clear he's big, he's athletic, and he's got talent in the passing game. It's incredibly impressive. To be honest with you, this reminded me of the impact that Heath Miller had, not because of his size, but because of the respect he commanded when he became a reliable target. Anyone who lived through that era knows what I'm talking about. And if Washington gets that kind of confidence now, he could become a nightmare for opponents in the red zone. Of course, we can't forget that the tight end group is crowded. There's Freiermuth himself. There's Jonnu Smith arriving. There's going to be a fight for playing time, no way around it. But man, if the quarterback chooses to highlight Washington right off the bat, that weighs a lot in the hierarchy. It shows confidence. And look, I understand those who say he still hasn't put up big numbers, but numbers can be deceiving. What he brings as a blocker already changes the entire offense. And if he now also becomes an aerial weapon, then yes, the opposing defense will have a hard time trying to stop him. In the groups, the fans are already hyped. There are those who say we're finally going to have a dominant tight end again, that guy who opens up lanes for the wide receivers to shine. Others are more cautious, reminding us that he needs consistency. But I'll tell you, seeing Rodgers this excited is half the battle. Only here you get the full analysis. Washington could be the sleeper who transforms our offense. And I'm not just talking about stats. I'm talking about morale, confidence, and impact within the locker room. When the quarterback buys in, the whole team follows. And now tell me, do you believe Washington can become that nightmare for opponents, or do you think it's a flash in the pan? Because in the conclusion, I'm going to put all these pieces together and drop a bold take on the state of the franchise. You know what's left after all this? It's the feeling that the Steelers are at a major crossroads. On one side, Hayward is demanding respect. On the other, the wide receiver soap opera never ends. Then there's Jarrett quietly arriving, asking for a chance, and Washington surprising even Rodgers. It's all connected, all affecting the soul of the nation. For me, it's the most decisive moment in recent years. So comment below, because this is the home of the real Steel Nation. And get your heart ready, because the next content is going to hit even harder.